Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Code Review. Way back in early 2000, I found myself working freelance as a result of the .com implosion. I found a gig subcontracting for a contract a large company in San Diego had acquired from another company. They wanted to build a reliable delivery platform for the cell network. In those days, cell data was 2G and 2.5G at best, so this wasn't as easy as you might think. The division of the large company ran a satellite message platform, and the CTO of that division had no interest in this project, which is how I ended up with it. Interestingly enough, in the .com implosion, I had been let go by a company building a WAN overlay on the internet, a very similar problem. Since the second version of a product is always better, I just took the lessons I learned and applied them to this project. That included heavily relying on this new thing called open source software. It took my small team about 6 months to build and deliver the platform, and both the customer and the salespeople were happy with the result. But the CTO of this division was not. He had turned down the project based on his assumption that it would be a long and arduous task. So he demanded a code review with me and my team. He was very explicit. He wanted to see every line of code in this project, and we were not to leave anything out. He was sure we were somehow faking our results and was going to get to the bottom of this, as there was no way we could have delivered in 6 months. So we assembled our source into a zip for him. First, the code we wrote. Then all the source for the open source libraries we used. Then the source for the libraries those libraries used, and so on recursively until we had everything. We ran all that through a formatter to make it easier to read, and ended up with about 800 megabytes of source files, which we sent off to the CTO. The initial code review date got moved back and rescheduled for a month later. We sat in the meeting waiting for him, and he arrived about 15 minutes late. He stood in the doorway and looked at us, and finally asked his only question: what did we use to print the source? I started to say we used the script we wrote, but he cut me off, said fine, and left the room. We ended up doing work for that large company for 10 years, and never again were we asked for a code review. The next story is called Bulk Mailing Stamp. Back in the 1980s, I worked for a sporting goods company as a catalog designer. Small company, privately owned. I was the entire advertising department. I created 4 catalogs a year. These were responsible for most of our mail order sales, pre-internet, to the tune of around 700k a year. We sent the catalogs via bulk mail using a mailing service. This let us send them for a much discounted rate. To do this required the use of a bulk mail permit and placing the permit info on the mailing area of the catalog. Technically it's called a fiche. Enter a new boss. Let's call him Ron. I was number 1, the only one in my department. For some reason the company owner hired Ron as a favor to a friend. From day one he was micromanaging, questioning everything and screwing up my very tight schedule. This was before computers were common. Everything was by hand. Literally typing out copy and reducing it on the photocopier to fit. Developing the photo film myself, making prints, etc. The actual printer had to add screens to the photos, so they'd print burn metal plates and so on. All time consuming and expensive. Deadlines could not be missed. So I was stuck with several 16-hour days come crunch time. I was complaining to the owner, but he really couldn't care less. I really wanted to stick it to Ron, and the opportunity presented itself. Constant threats of my way or you are fired were getting to me. The latest pre-summer catalog was done. Summer was our big season. I had to give him my mock-up, photocopied sheets stapled together, of the final catalog for his approval. A new step added after he demanded it. He looked at it and sent it back with several pointless revisions. And a note to remove that ugly permit box, because it was not needed. Where he worked previously, they stuffed their mailers in envelopes. The envelopes had the fiche, but their mailer did his last step. I simply asked him to initial the changes, as this was the final approved version and was going to the printer the next day. There was no time to check it again. So he did. I knew it would be a total mess, and it's something I never would have done in the past. 50,000 catalogs were printed and shipped directly to the mailer. The day they arrive at the mailer, the boss gets a call from the sales rep. We can't mail your catalogs. Boss storms into my area of the building and is literally screaming. Ron is now angry and yelling at me, joined by the boss. There was a minimum 2-week delay, wasted money and lost sales. I explained what happened. the threat to fire me and showed the owner the changes to the final copy. initialed by Ron. He was going to give Ron a second chance, until the bill came in from the printer. They had to stamp 50,000 catalogs by hand. We had to rent their permit, since that's what was on their stamp. Rental and labor was almost $8,000. Adjusted for inflation, that's $20,000. Plus, our early sales summer boost was off by almost $50,000 from previous years, or $200,000 adjusted for inflation. Ron was fired. I was left alone after that. The third story is called Fired for Fun. I worked for a car dealership as a lot porter. I had gotten into an accident that totaled my car right as I was purchasing a house, which led to a predicament because you don't want to buy a new car while buying a house. Shortly after buying the house, I found a different job in a field I love. So I put in my 2 weeks notice and then I went and bought from a different dealership because my wife wanted a specific car that my dealership did not sell. I also knew how slimy the one I worked for was. A few days after the purchase of both house and car, one of the sales managers asked me if I was ready to buy a car from him. I didn't disclose the fact to anyone that I bought from a different dealer. I informed him I already bought one, so he looks at me with the most serious face and asks if I wanted to pack my things, basically because I wasn't loyal to this dealership. Knowing I already had a better job that was able to start me immediately, I said sure and turned and walked away to pack my things. He then realized I wasn't going to put up a fight, so he immediately started laughing and told me he was joking, and how they would never fire anyone for going somewhere else. But I already knew a few people that had gotten fired for that exact reason. I told him I don't appreciate being fired as a joke, because first I do have a 1.5-year-old, and if I didn't have a job lined up, he could have seriously hurt me financially. But I ended up leaving, feeling relieved because this was not a good job. The funny thing is, he called me about 30 to 45 minutes after I left because I had left keys to multiple brand new trucks on my desk that had to have the plastic removed and get parked. Turns out that since he fired me, they made him take care of the stuff. I am now fully enjoying my new job with the best bosses I have ever had. I know I probably took it too far, but I don't regret it. The last story is called Hard Business. This story is about my previous job at a dealer group, which I actually like pretty well. Still, I wanted to work at a particular brand and settled on working at a different store for 6 months and bugging the GM for a position at that one store I wanted to work at. The GM is a great guy and could see that I very much wanted to transfer over there. He had me interview with upper management there, even though the 2 sales managers weren't really interested in somebody new to sales. They gave in after I persisted and gave me a sales position reluctantly. During my first week there, the older manager pulled me to his office, kicked his feet up and said something along the lines of, "Look man, when you inevitably give up on this job, just don't bother showing up. You know how many new guys actually make it? None. Sales is a dying breed and you don't seem to have enough of an edge to take it. You are too nice to be here. So do us a favor and just get out of here. Nobody gives notice in the car business." I took that to heart. In my first month I hit commission and everybody was blown away. After over 2 years of fighting the top seasoned veteran for first place and winning a few times, my wife and I found out we were having a baby. As much as I loved the job itself, having fun with my preferred brand in the process and gaining some loyal families and referrals, it was time to step away from the super high stress job. I wanted to focus on family. It was a great experience, but always hindered by the sales managers trying to make me miserable. Some days I'd be laughing and chatting it up with my prospects and having a good time, and they would go out of their way to either mess my deals up or just set me off. Other coworkers told me that they frequently heard those managers complaining that I was too happy doing the work I was. As we got the news of our upcoming little one, I found out as well that the managers had been taking away bonuses I'd earned fair and square from me for months. It was definitely time to take the money and leave. At this point, I'd become the store's manufacturer certified EV specialist and had the entire store's pre-order program running by myself. I was the only one certified to do it, and managers didn't know about the real process. January 1st, 2022 hits. I walk in 3 hours late for my shift, not wearing my normal business casual. I was never late more than a minute or two without letting them know, so they just assumed I was there I suppose, and never went to check. The manager looks me up and down, looks at the clock, looks at me again, looks at the clock and mumbles, "You're not dressed for work." "Yeah, because I don't work here anymore." Bewildered, he repeatedly asked me what I meant by that. I just told him I quit, Thanks for screwing me out of my hard-earned bonuses for a year and for trying to screw me out of my happiness. But you can't quit like this, it's not like you to do that. Where's our notice? We only have a couple of guys left, we can't cover your shifts or your pre-orders. Well, you see, I'm just doing exactly as I was told. Have a nice new year without me. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and would like to support me, please subscribe and hit the like button. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.